I'm going to hand it over to Chloe. She is our Dean of Students to start us off.
Hi, folks. I'm so excited that we're all together tonight to talk about this incredibly joyful, energetic, complex, awkward, and profoundly formative stage of life that your children are about to enter. It's a time when students are figuring out who they are, how they belong, and how they're going to navigate increasing academic, social, and emotional demands. And we are here to walk alongside them and alongside you. And tonight we want to share about how the middle school experience at T is intentionally designed to be supportive, developmentally responsive, and deeply meaningful for students and families as you get started on this next chapter. But to start us off, I think we should all go back to our middle school days, if you are an adult in this space, and think about something just incredibly awkward that happened to you. And I'll go first, just to make everyone feel comfortable. On my first day of sixth grade, I decided I was going to wear high heels for the first time. And my school at the time had these like massive sets of stairs where everyone could just like kind of see you walking up. On like stair 9, I tripped and I just went like sliding back really awkwardly. It was just one of those days, and it was a really bold choice on my part. So take some time to think about that. If you want to put your awkward moment in the chat so we can all reminisce together. But this is just a way to center ourselves in this really interesting and wonderfully exciting time period that your own kids are going to enter. If you feel so inclined and you want to share, feel free to. But tonight, I really want to give you all a window into what makes middle school at T such a vibrant and challenging and supportive place for students where they can learn and they can grow. And our goal is to help you understand not just what we teach, but how we teach through intentional character development and strong relationships, field work, hands-on learning. And you'll get to meet some of our wonderful teachers and get a sense of the culture that we're continuously building together. But first, I could talk about middle school all night. I think it's really critical that you hear from the source themselves. We have 3 wonderful middle school students on our Zoom tonight who are going to share a little bit about their own experiences of middle school at T. We have one 6th grader, one 7th grader, and one 8th grader. So we are going to start off with our youngest student, Izzy, who's in 6th grade, is going to share a little bit about her experience at T.
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm in 6th grade. There was a lot that shaped my experience this year, even though I've just started. One thing about middle school that definitely supported my growth was a new movement, like new adjustment into having homework after school. It definitely helped me work on my time management because I was not used to having homework, but the more productive I was with it, the faster it got done. Um, Something really fun I enjoy, a new middle school activity for me, has been being able to try out intensives. I'm in an entrepreneurship class with Stephen, and it's a really fun experience for me. We get to develop our businesses, and that's something I didn't get to do in elementary school, and that's definitely been something I've really enjoyed. Um, there's also a lot of like academic stuff that I've enjoyed that's helped me grow through middle school, helped me with my middle school experience, shaped it. Um, Something new that I've got is we start to have a lot of essays. Some of them are fun. I really liked a few of them. They were really fun to write. I really liked the one about petroglyphs and graffiti. We do a lot of fun interactive projects. We did a Cell City brochure, which I really enjoyed. We learned about the cell and then we got to make a city brochure. So it was a really fun interactive activity. My favorite thing with adventure about T is how often we're off campus. Our last overnight to was at a campsite. We had to do a lot of creative solutions because it was raining. It was cold, and I know personally my tent group had to reset up our tent 3 times because we kept planting it on puddles or leaving the flaps open and getting lots of rain in. But it was definitely really fun. And then the next day we went to a hike to Fallen Leaf Lake, and everyone enjoyed that. It was really beautiful. So that definitely was an example of how no matter like how weird or unexpected things can get at T, there's always a fun solution and everyone ends up enjoying themselves in the end. Then some character things that have shaped my experience here have been my social life. Things get really complicated in 6th grade. Friendships, you get really awkward sometimes, but it's definitely a really fun experience. I personally have had some awkward moments so far with my social life, but it's definitely expanding a lot more than I had it in like 5th grade. I'm starting to branch out a little more, and it's really fun. T has given me a really amazing 6th grade experience, and I'm even more excited to see what else it gives me throughout the year. Thank you.
Izzy.
Yeah.
Next up, we're going to hear from Gigi.
Hi everyone, my name's Gigi. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. I'm currently in 7th grade and this is my 5th year at T. One of the reasons I love being a student here is that we get to go on expeditions on a regular basis and they're always really fun. My favorite expedition was probably last year when we got to hike up Mount Talac and we got the chance to go swimming at a pretty beach. Also, everyone who works at the school is very, very nice, and I've always felt comfortable asking for help with like my schoolwork and stuff like that. Overall, my transition to middle school has been wonderful, and I'm grateful I'm able to attend school here. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, Gigi. Really appreciate you. And finally, we're going to hear from Royce in 8th grade.
Yeah, so my time at T has been pretty fun. I'll start with academics. My academics is not anything I'm necessarily proud of, but being able to work on those real world problems that a T allows us to work on is just amazing. Like about a month ago, I did a project with a few of my classmates where I was able to help a ski resort on their marketing team to try and get costs down for events. And we chose to focus on food. And it was very helpful in learning and investigating about all the costs, work, and math that's involved in that. It was just mind blowing learning about that. And T's just the vibe is nice. And many of the kids are so outgoing and adventurous. It's also helpful when you're pushed to try. Like last year, we went to Monterey and we got to go to Pinnacles National Park, and we got to go rock climbing while we were there. And a couple of my kids in my class weren't necessarily excited about the fact of that, but we all did it, and I think we were all happy and grateful that we were able to have that chance to try that new thing. And I remember 7th grade was my first year at T, and I remember walking in feeling like I was already a part of my class. Like that first school trip, it's amazing. You get to bond, you get to sleep for 3 days with your crew, and you just learn so much about each other, and it's just an amazing experience. And while we're on the topic of trips, like I've been almost many places along California. I've been to Monterey, Mount Rose, Cool, California, San Luis Obispo, and many more. And it's like not only the academics tie into it, but the real world skills that help us every day. Like I find myself using stuff I learned on a T trip almost every day. It's just amazing. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Royce. I really appreciate you. Students, you've done wonderful. If you want to go off the Zoom, you are welcome to. Thank you for being here so much. Allie, can we go back to the honoring the transition to middle school? Thank you so much. So there's a variety of things that are going to happen naturally and some that we at T directly work to supporting your students in doing that happen in the transition from elementary to middle school. The academic rigor increases. As it is in our elementary school, it continues that we have a deep focus on our character development in a variety of different ways, which some of our students already touched on. Logistically speaking, students have to transition between classes. They have multiple teachers. They have passing periods. They're going to have longer and more frequent overnights for field work. We're going to start to really hone in on our executive functioning skills as well. And we will work on with them, and sort of naturally there will be an increased level of maturity and personal responsibility. And now Kristen's going to talk a little bit more, our school counselor, about how that transition also is deeply embedded within our social emotional experiences.
Hi, everyone. Students, you did an awesome job. If you're still on here, we're all really proud of you. And now we get a follow up as adults so you can see all the awesome things that our school can do for public speaking for our kids. The first thing I want to highlight are just some of the what happens for our kids as they're moving into their middle childhood years. This can be considered somewhere like between 9 and 14, depending on development. But we know from our own experiences and also seeing our children right now, they're starting to form more strong and complex relationships with friends. They start to look for their friends for advice more so than their household sometimes. And it becomes really emotionally important for them to have that outward peer experience. They're also seeing a lot more peer pressure, whether that is for social behaviors, maybe that is things that happen in the classroom. Peer pressure can be positive or negative. And then also their bodies are changing. We know their hormones are changing. Their brain development is altering a lot. And so things that they might face holistically are, as Chloe said, more academic challenges in school. They're becoming more independent from their family. They start to see the point of view of their peers or maybe people outside the household more clearly. And with all of this, they can have an increased attention span. Even though as they start to navigate through middle school, sometimes sixth grade, we have a higher attention span, as then we're moving through puberty a little bit. Sometimes our attention span decreases a little bit before it comes back up at the end of middle school. Those are kind of the what happens. And what I want to just go over quickly is how T supports all of those things. We know that middle schoolers are whole individuals or whole children, and we're not just here to help them get their schoolwork done or be successful in the field. We are also here to holistically help them grow as humans and support them through this journey that is middle school. So as Chloe mentioned, we work on executive functioning skills. What that can look like is in sixth grade, we're just working on backpack organization. We're looking at maybe a planner or how you keep track of your materials. We're in elementary school, that stuff might be in for you. We know by eighth grade, you're responsible for all these things. You need to know where your things are and how to find what homework or project might be due. Meaningful relationships with your crew and teachers continues. That's something we value at T, and that is part of who we are at a core. We also are saying goodbye to a lot of lower school traditions. For some of our kids, this can be hard. Like, we don't have recess twice a day in middle school, but in sixth grade, there is opportunities for recess. In seventh grade, we can read what the room is doing and know that the kids need to go outside for 5 or 10 minutes to get some energy out. It just, some of the formalities of our lower school traditions start to disappear as we move into those upper grades. One other piece is you're working on interpersonal skills between people. And then we're also really focusing with our students on their intrapersonal, meaning what is their attitude towards other people or themselves? What decisions are they making? How can we support them with their decisions? Where's their self-esteem at, and where's their self-regulation at? So also some of the things that you might focus on with your students when they're maybe in first, second, third grade, we're looping back at a different level in middle school. And then we're really excited. We work with a couple different outside sources. One is Beyond Academics, and the other is Sierra Community House. And they do a lot of the interpersonal and interpersonal skill development for us and with us. But also this is where we get puberty education, sexual health education, and substance education. And those are places that we know we try to do the education pieces for our kids before they are faced with those decisions as they move into high school. With that, I'm going to pass on to Andy, who is our upper school division head.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, so I'm Andy Giordano, and I'm the upper school division head here at Tahoe Expedition Academy. This is my 5th year at T, and as you saw earlier, I'm also the proud parent of a T middle schooler myself. As Kristen just covered, middle school is a transitional time for students. While they're growing into their adolescence, we begin to step up their responsibilities, to add complexity into their environment, and they begin to notice their grades and academic performance relative to their peers. And I think our middle school structures at T honor these thresholds explicitly. As they move from 6th through 8th grade, they're branching out. They're starting to see more and more teachers and have subject-specific spaces. They're always anchored in their crews with middle school-specific crew leaders. One thing we've worked very hard on this year is generating unique identities and through lines for each grade in our middle school. We've scaffolded and discerned content, skills, and expeditions with specific foci, defining each grade level as a distinct experience. Also, beginning next year, middle schoolers will experience an easier transition in math classes as we adopt the Eureka math curriculum across divisions from kindergarten through 8th grade. Our middle schoolers continue to participate in PE at T, and they transition, as you heard earlier, from the lower school enrichment model into our upper school intensive model, where they have optionality and they can choose different elective courses each semester according to their curiosities and their passions. And of course, we have upper school team sports and programs after school that they can join in that weren't necessarily available to them in lower school. Sorry. Our middle school team includes our crew leaders. They're sort of the center, the hub of these wheels, with Brooke Binley in 6th grade, Liz Shepard and Hannah Ellis in 7th grade, Shelby Christensen and Leslie Truesdell in 8th grade. You're going to hear from some of those folks as we transition from the overview into the specific programming. In 6th grade, Brooke runs our Bridge program, which gives 6th graders their own sacred room where she's able to run crew, integrate their fieldwork curriculum, teaching humanities, so ELA, social studies, and science. So it's a little bit more of a one-room schoolhouse model. But then they go outside to work with Haley for math, they go with Seth for PE, and they go to the intensives that they chose. In 7th and 8th graders, we start to see more teachers. So they don't have that one-room schoolhouse model anymore. They're working with Liz and Stephen in 7th, with Liz, Stephen, Kimberly, Shelby. This year, that's the list for 8th. So they're starting to experience more and more subject-specific teachers like they would in high school as they move across their curriculum. In addition to intensives, middle school students are participating in that upper school experience, which means the clubs period during the day, student council, and town hall meetings within our upper school schedule. Academically, their homework and their personal accountability continue to scaffold up from 6th through 8th grade as they learn to plan their time and track their responsibilities. That scaffold tends to be nonlinear just because students' growth is nonlinear, and we're here to support them through that. So that's our overview, and I'm going to pass it back over to Chloe.
Thank you, Andy. One of the pivotal aspects of what we do at T is what we call crew. This is akin to our advisory program, and it has a lot of different components, and it's actually changed pretty drastically this year in a really wonderful way. So we have all of these amazing fieldwork experiences that have interdisciplinary through lines that are connected to fieldwork. And crew is where these big projects and big experiences land. In each grade, there's a different focus and a different theme. So in 6th grade, the focus is past is present. In 7th, it's values and perspectives. And in 8th, it's windows and mirrors. This is also a really wonderful place where students get regular academic check-ins and executive functioning coaching. So for example, you might have a teacher who's coming in and saying, hey, let's look at your Blackbaud together, our learning management system, and see what's going on with you. Or, hey, let's look at your planner, what's working for you. And this is a great place to have a one-on-one human being who knows you and understands where you are and really starts to understand who you are and your areas of strength and your areas that are needed for growth. We do a lot of reflecting and goal setting in crew, and it's alongside a human being that it becomes a trusted adult for you. Many of our crew leaders actually follow some of their crews and get to spend many years with them, and some of them teach their students as well. This is also a place where you build connection and camaraderie. At the start of the year, like Royce mentioned, you go on a crew trip and you spend time together and you engage in reflection and connection and team building. During the week, you do social emotional activities and check-ins, and you also work on your student-led conferences. So this is where you, alongside your crew leader and your parents, come together and talk about your growth. And then finally, we do some character education in our crews as well. So this is where our elementary model is mirrored in our upper school, giving students a really soft landing ground and a place to feel connected and grounded. You can go on to the next slide. Now, as Andy mentioned, our 6th grade model looks a bit different than our middle school model, so we'll discuss both of those tonight. 6th grade is really our bridge program. It's where We help students transition from elementary school into upper school. Physically, they move. They start a little bit of having departmentalization. So they have one teacher for humanities, science, but then they transition for intensives to different places that are actually mixed grade classes. And intensives are similar to what an elective is. There's a variety of different choices, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. And then they also go to a different math teacher as well. This is an example of what a sixth grade schedule might look like. And this is a really inquiry-based place in sixth grade, and various integrated studies. It allows the teacher in this space to do interdisciplinary projects because she has them for much of the day. They also in sixth grade get PE classes, which is similar to our elementary school. And then again, like we do in middle school, there's a huge focus on crew and connection to real world problems and character development. Now, the schedule for 7th and 8th grade gets far more complex. We're on a block schedule, and this is what our current upper school schedule looks like. We have crew built into our schedule, and then Wednesdays we have our power blocks, which is a rotating schedule where teachers get to every 6 weeks hone in for 3 hours on a major project or take students off campus to do big projects as well. Lunch and office hours are also built into the schedule. We also have a club period for middle school students and high school students as well. And then we have a community gathering every Monday with our whole upper school, which is called Town Hall. I'm going to pass it over to Stephen to talk a little bit about our humanities in the middle school.
Hi, I'm Stephen Madek. I am the 7th and 8th grade English teacher at Tahoe Expedition Academy, as well as I teach 7th grade social studies. And as Chloe mentioned, sometimes some of our teachers, we do follow students up, and I'm the 9th grade crew leader as well. So we try to build that bridge, not just from 5th to 6th, but from 8th to 9th as well. In terms of humanities in middle school, I really try to bring some modern ideas and some modern philosophies and just things that we're going to see in the real world and apply them to, say, ELA if we start. We have real world books alongside some of the classics. So right now in 7th grade, we're working on The Hidden Life of Trees, and we're really focusing on that values and perspective part of it and learning how trees can actually communicate with each other and the forests around them. And then in 8th grade, we're just about to start reading To Kill a Mockingbird, where we will be completing, instead of a mock trial at the end, we're actually going to do a jury selection, because this To Kill a Mockingbird project is going to focus more on character development. We also work on building strong communication and presentation skills. So just like a quick example, the other day in my ELA class, we had a whole conversation. What is a paragraph? And a paragraph is not just 5 sentences, right? We actually, what is the use of a paragraph? Why do we have a paragraph? Those types of foundational communication skills that we all need in our day-to-day lives, we're starting to build them in 7th grade. And then we will be applying our ideas beyond the classroom. So an example being, again, 7th grade, we're about to start reading The Omnivore's Dilemma. Royce, thankfully, mentioned the cool California trip. Omnivore's Dilemma just helps us answer the essential question of where does our food come from? And at the end of that project, we actually track one type of change that we want to do in our food consumption in our lives. And then we get to see kind of how we feel and how things have changed by the end of the year. In social studies, we're trying to think like a real historian. We're trying to explore history through multiple perspectives. And we look at different views. An example, again, in 7th grade is we're looking at different frames. So we're looking at networks of different civilizations and groups and communities. We're looking at production and distribution. So if we're looking at Oceania and the Pacific, what did they have in terms of production and distribution in those communities? And then last but not least, in terms of social studies and ELA, is we are connecting our past to our present. So I know a lot of middle school students, and myself included as we go throughout the years, why am I learning this if it happened 200, 300, 400 years ago? We've heard the phrase, history tends to repeat itself. And the other thing is we want to connect what we learned happened in the past to how we can impact that change in our present and in the future. So that's kind of how we go. And I work very closely with Liz and the other teachers. I know we mentioned the interdisciplinary through lines and how, so when I'm working on the omnivore's dilemma and where is our food coming, I know Liz, I'm not going to steal her thunder, but she will talk about kind of how that applies to the math and science part of it. And so that's kind of humanities in middle school, and I'll pass it on to Haley next.
Cool, thanks. Okay, math in middle school. So we are making a transition between this year and next, going from CPM over to Eureka. And the main goal of this is to kind of support middle school students in transitioning from lower and middle school math up into high school. And so we've been using a separate curriculum for the last few years that we have just found to be really challenging for students to find any sort of independence and confidence in their math understanding. And so between this year and next, we're making that transition. And that really creates an awesome foundation for them when they go into high school. So what we're focused on in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade is introducing them to algebra concepts, data analysis, ratios, basic geometry. So they're kind of getting this wide breadth of knowledge so that when we get them into high school, we can go deeper into those concepts. And we have a few projects listed here for each grade. So sixth grade, so far this year, we've done about 6 projects. These are 3 of them. We did a trip planning using a fixed budget. They did a nature probability project. And then for their field work, when they were at, I think it was Camp Richardson, they did like a river velocity project with Brooke that I created and passed on to her. So you're still seeing that sort of interdisciplinary work between teachers. Our ratio probability project was also a collaboration between Brooke and I. So we really try to make sure that there's that overlap between what she's working on and what I'm working on. We go kind of above and beyond with the 6th grade because they are still getting used to having separate teachers, separate classes. So 6th grade sort of has its own bubble that we work within. 7th and 8th grade, obviously, we've talked about this, they start moving around more. So they have separate teachers for their different classes. And 7th grade, they have a few projects listed here. You'll notice that there's some overlap in the content, right? So they're seeing ratios again, they're seeing rates again. And the goal kind of between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is to continue similar concepts and make them more challenging. And so in 8th grade, they really start delving into pre-algebra so that they're prepared for Algebra 1 their freshman year of high school. And yeah, the goal is to just get them comfortable and create that confidence within, especially algebra, so that when they end up in high school, they're feeling really solid in math. That's one thing that we've kind of been priding ourselves on, is hopefully helping students feel confident in an area that tends to be an area of discomfort and fear as they get older. So hopefully combating that between Liz, Shelby, and I by the time they get to high school. So yeah, that's math. I know there's usually questions with math. You guys are always welcome to reach out to me. We're kind of in an adjustment period right now between curriculum. So if you all have any questions between now and when your students are coming into middle school, you're welcome to email me separately or reach out because I'm happy to talk about that. I think Liz is next with science. Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thanks, Haley. I apologize. I have lost my voice, so let me know if you need me to speak up. But I have the honor of being the 7th grade crew leader, teaching 7th grade math and then 7th and 8th grade science. And then I also teach an intensive. And I love middle school science. It's this super fun place where the kids really get to put their hands on all of these concepts that they'll be exploring for like the next 4 to 10 years of their lives, and hopefully a way that inspires them and gathers curiosity. The goal is really to create as much of a lab-rich, hands-on experience as possible. So 7th grade is entirely life science. Stephen and I work really closely to align the curriculum in 7th grade. So a lot of the topics we study in science relate to the books that he's reading, which is a pretty wonderful experience. Our current 7th graders right now have been in sort of a big block about trees and forests, and our field work fed right into that. We went up to Redwood National and State Parks, and they're reading The Hidden Life of Trees. And in science, we've really been delving into the different parts of a plant and what makes up a forest. So you can see a picture here of the kids planting some sugar pines just in the Tahoe Basin. And we've just been looking at all of the things that make that happen, which has been pretty spectacular and really cool to watch them be like, I don't know anything about forests. And then to be like, oh, wait, we read this in the book with Stephen. And here's what we experienced in the redwoods. Like we talked about microclimates today. And they're like, oh, yeah, the redwoods were so dark and kind of chilly. And so I really love bringing the experience in the field into our classroom experience. And life science in 7th grade is the perfect place to do that. 8th grade focuses on physical science. So you can see the kids here have made a Swedish fish wave machine, which was a huge hit. And it kind of goes through all the physical sciences from physics to chemistry. Right now we're in a chemistry block, and the kids have been asked to design their own planets, replicating actual chemical equations and reactions and using acids and bases and all the chemistry that we're studying now. So we're able to layer in some earth science and some astronomy into that block, which the kids have really been loving. We'll also build some Rube Goldberg machines later in the year and go to Rube Goldberg contest locally, which was a really big, impactful moment, I think, for kids last year. So again, the goal is like just as much hands-on as possible so that the kids can really experience and feel the science as well as understanding it. It's also a really great place for us to practice things like how to take notes and how to organize a notebook and how to organize themselves, how to study for a test so that we can prepare them for those skills as they go into upper school science.
Thank you, Liz. We're going to discuss a little bit about intensives, which I mentioned earlier. So these are our electives. These are mixed grade level semester long courses, and there's choice here, right? In middle school, choice is so infrequent at times. And so this is a place where there's lots of choice. Students at the start of each semester get to rate a variety of different intensive options. And then they will get assigned a certain intensive. So whether it be computer science, mindfulness, and art, drama, textile and fibers, entrepreneurship, music, these change year to year. So it just depends on the year and what they get to experience. And then they get to do power blocks with these intensives as well and integrate them into their learning. I'm going to pass it over to Andy to talk a little bit about fieldwork at T.
Okay, thanks, Chloe. We're obviously an expedition academy, and as such, our adventure coordinator is currently managing an expedition. So I'm taking over for Liz for these next couple of slides. In middle school, we are, I guess, bridging the gap between elementary school expeditions and high school expeditions as they get scaffolded in a lot of different ways. So one of the primary visible ways is that the trips are longer. So elementary school expeditions are 2, 3, and in 5th grade, they start to push into 4 nights. Then middle school, we're pushing up into 4 and 5 night programs. That's only part of that scaffold, though. The reality is that as they move forward, the activities get harder, the length of the adventures and complexity of the adventures gets harder, and the integration of curriculum, which is done fantastically well in our lower school, continues, but obviously the content and skills that we're working on are getting more and more complex. As you heard from Liz and Stephen on Liz, what's that book called? Secret Life of Trees? Did I get it right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Sorry to test your voice again.
Actually, The Hidden Life of Trees.
Hidden Life. Yeah. Not The Secret Life of Bees. That's a different author altogether. We see that these curricular pieces are interdisciplinary and integrated across the curriculum. So we're really focused on the big ideas that reach across social studies, ELA, science, and math, and how we can get out into the real world and test that learning. So the students have a backpacking orientation trip in the fall, which Chloe went over a little bit earlier, plus their fall fieldwork, the winter expedition, and a spring expedition. The students love to call these trips, and as Royce pointed out, talk about the adventures that take place on those trips. Izzy talked about some of the ups and downs. So there's obviously like a lot of lovely pictures from these activities. These are just a few of the trips we've run in the past for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Actually, the Montero Lighthouse for 6th grade, we're running for the first time in just about a month from now. The Redwood National Park trip Liz piloted this fall to great success. We've run the Monterey trip twice, and the San Luis Obispo trip is on its 3rd year. Some of the terms that we're seeing on here are about the adventure: backpacking, kayaking, surfing, rafting. This really matters. It does, because when we're working our pillars correctly, our adventure, character, and academic pillars correctly, they're almost indistinguishable from each other. They're wound together. You can't engage in any particular activity as being one thing or another thing. The truth is that what we're really proud of are the academic frameworks that these trips are built around. The fact that it is field work. The goal is to learn a lot about the real world, to engage with experts, and to get plugged in with real world learning opportunities that we know are the most transformative opportunities that we have accessible to us. And we can see some of those learning opportunities on the next slide, where each of these pieces connects to the grade level curriculum. I'm not going to read all of these, but we can see that, like Haley implied, there's overlapping of ideas. A lot of ideas come around in 4th grade, and then in 7th grade, and then in 9th grade when they're with me, as the complexity of these concepts gets harder and harder as the students mature in their academic focus. But we feel really good about this scope and sequence of topics and their interdisciplinary nature. I just want to point out that many of these trips we've run for a few years or for many years, and we're getting to the point where we can really start to iron out the edges and develop that curriculum to be more deep and to be better supported as we get better relationships with our vendors and with our experts in these areas. Some of these are new. Montero is new. 2 years ago, we did Klamath rafting with the 8th grade for their capstone expedition. And in other years, we've done Lost Coast backpacking. So we are always sort of like tweaking around the edges and trying to meet the needs of the group, and seeing their expeditions far enough away. We know if the questions are good enough that we can move the locations around to meet student needs.
Our athletic director, Eric Martin, is watching his own child in their holiday show. So I'm going to talk a little bit about athletics and activities. What's really wonderful about going into middle school is getting to try competitive athletics on a low stakes place and try something new. We're part of the Taneva League, and there's a variety of different opportunities for kids. In the fall, we have cross country, there's basketball, mountain biking. In the winter, there's Nordic, and there's also girls volleyball. And then in the spring, there is track and field, tennis, and mountain biking. And I've actually also seen students get so excited about a sport that it got started here at T. And that's really what you can do here at T, is both try something new and bring something new to light. And then there's a variety of activities. Middle schoolers can engage in both athletics, but also they can do rock band. They can do art after school. There's now Spanish after school. T Players is getting started with a new show, James and the Giant Peach. And then also there is mountain biking again and tennis. So throughout the different years and depending on the season, there's a variety of different opportunities for students to engage in after school opportunities at T. We're talking about all of these things that are going on: the transition, the academics, the character, the activities after school. And then there's a lot of support to help students work through the variety of things coming at them. And that's our student support team, in addition to obviously their amazing crew leaders and their teachers. And this is our student support team with me, where I work with student life and meet with students one-on-one. We also have our wonderful school counselor, Kristen, and she also brings in our prep and Know Beyond programs. And then we have 2 learning support coordinators. Mostly we have Brenda in our upper school, but we also have Katie Bloom, who works in our lower school, who at times will meet with our upper school students. We have Emily, who is our individual adventure program support coordinator. So if you are a student that skis multiple times a week and needs academic support, she's there for you. If you're a family that wants to go traveling and wants to take some time off, she creates individualized programs for you. And if you have more questions about this, Emily is a wonderful support and is happy to talk about this incredible program. And then finally, we have Katie Watts, who is our college and career counselor and who is deeply devoted to helping students get to their next step after high school, whether that be college or something else. She works individually with students, sometimes starting in 8th grade, but mostly in 9th grade, to make sure that they are well on their way towards creating a path towards their own success. And then we partner with you. You as parents are our greatest partners, and there's lots that you can do at home to support your children in middle school. You're transitioning too, and so we are here to do this together. But of course, you can help them with their organizational strategies, with regular backpack cleanouts, helping home file, creating a space at home that's conducive to getting work done with a wall calendar. We have Blackbaud, which we use where all of our academic assignments go. And so you can look at those things together. Of course, like always, we say read, 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 and read together. We also, as I mentioned before, have office hours built into our schedule. And so you can help your child think through, what do I need? Can I meet with this teacher? I think one of the most critical things you can do as a parent is make your own thinking transparent. What are the steps that you take in order to get activities and things done? And so that your student starts to see, oh, it doesn't just get done. There's all these steps I need to take that my parent does. And how can I build those things? And then, of course, you can help set goals with your child. And I think the most important thing, which I'll say over and over again, is communicate, communicate, communicate. We are here to support. We are here to help, but we don't know what we don't know. And so we are partners and teams with you to support your children. So finally, just to sum some things up, there is a lot of benefits to being a middle schooler at T, but here's just a quick summary. I won't read through all of them, but feel free to take a look and I'll highlight some. Of course, we have small class sizes, which allows us to really get to know your kids. I often say to families, if your student doesn't have at least 2 trusted adults, that's odd at T. You have a multiple teachers that you know you can go to. And then, of course, we create this really fun elixir of healthy risk-taking with greater confidence and a sense of self and academics. And all of these things come together to create this really powerful middle school experience for T students. And there's a variety of different places where they can test things out, whether it be in T players or on athletic teams or during field work or in classes. They get to try things, take some risks, fail a little bit at a low stakes place with lots of love and lots of support. We have our wonderful project-based learning that continues throughout their time at T, that starts in elementary school and continues, that you heard lots of from our teachers. And then, of course, we have scaffolded opportunities for leadership and connection. In middle school, students can join our student council. They can start new clubs. They can engage in out-of-school opportunities that they can bring back to T. We had a student start a service learning club last year and has started wonderful initiatives that have taken place at T. It is a place where you get to be you and figure out who that is as well, alongside people that care about you and know you. So now comes the time where you've heard so much information, but you may have questions and comments, and we would love to hear from you. You can put them in the chat, or you are welcome to unmute as well.
Chloe, can you tell us a little bit about what some of the clubs are at T? We talked about activities and sports, but tell us about the clubs.
So are like during the day clubs?
During the day clubs.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So we have so many different clubs. We have some that are just like really logistic and helpful to kids, like homework club and study hall club. For some students, they need more time in the day to complete things. But then we have things like board game club. We have things like our biking and skating club. So you can just go out and do things like that. This year we have a meditation club, if I'm not mistaken. We have a rocket club as well. So each year they change, and middle schoolers are welcome to start new clubs.
And then on another note, can you tell us about the social activities that have been, like what happened last weekend at our school?
I would love to. One of my favorite parts of my work at T is the fun things I get to do. So each year we have 2 dances for middle school, one in the winter, one in the spring. We just had our winter Wonderland dance on last Friday, and it was really wonderful and well attended, and lots of wonderful parents that helped out. We also have one in the spring alongside prom. We additionally have our all school Olympics day. And then this year, one initiative that we're doing is to really build our identity and community in middle school. So last Friday as well, we had a whole school middle school game of Capture the Flag that kids absolutely loved, and we'll be continuing to do things like that. We have a movie night during the year. Some years we get to go to a baseball game. So we really try to create opportunities for the whole middle school to come together and do fun things, right? Because part of learning and part of the middle school experience is joy. If a student could benefit from a deeper dive into academics, are there opportunities? I'm going to have Andy answer that one.
Katie, you're on the call. Do you want to?
So I guess, Andy, my question is if a student might present as a little bit more accelerated in one area, are there opportunities? The most common might be math. So could that be as early
Yeah.
as sixth grade, or do we wait a little bit more till seventh grade? That's all.
Yeah, no, super fair question. The way we tackle it, math's a perfect example and a good place to talk about this. The way that we tackle that has been on a class by class basis, where certain classes tend to present a number of students who either have some holes to fill or on the other end are pushing up against the next level of math. And what we find is that as our math teachers, as Liz and Haley and Shelby, and last year I think it was Leslie as well, as we look at those grade levels, we can present opportunities for an accelerated curriculum within the room. So this year we're looking at in seventh grade doing some 7-8 math for groups. Because of our class sizes, we're able to sort of break into different structures of groups and work within the student needs and be more responsive to their pace. One thing that our small size does present us with those is scheduling challenges. So we often have to balance the actual advancement into a higher grade level with our capacity, our teaching capacity. So we're getting quite good at differentiating within the classroom. And the longer term question of mixing up grade levels in middle school math is one has a different answer every year, depending on what our course load is and what our student needs are, to be as honest about that one as possible. You're welcome, Katie.
How many of the incoming sixth graders are coming from a different school?
Right now, we usually have about, a couple of kiddos that come in from a new school. And then we have that transition period from 5th to 6th grade. But usually it's about, 2 to 4, 2 to 5 or something like that. It just varies year to year.
If so, we would be coming from an Oakland public school, elementary school, which we love. It's great, but it's a very different environment than everything so amazing that you've just described. And I'm just curious, if you must have some experience, bringing in someone from a different environment, how there's an adjustment period just in that, right? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, we have lots of supports for that. We have at the start of the year, you'll be contacted by a fellow parent. We'll connect your child with a student in their class as well. And what's really wonderful about the way that we start our year is we sort of have a little bit of a slow roll in terms of academics, but we run right into our fieldwork trip, which allows students to bond and connect prior to entering the classroom, which can be a really powerful experience for students. We also have a start of the year opportunity for families to come onto campus and see our school in the summertime, a week before school starts, so that students can see their classroom, get a vibe of what's happening, meet some teachers as well.
And I will add that for just the purposes of camping, our adventure guides did host a welcome gathering to just kind of talk about what gear are you going to need in order to be prepared for that upcoming crew and the rest of the field work.
Yeah, I'm going to toss in a few ideas here as well, which is that the nature of Tahoe is that families are moving into the area all the time when their kids are all ages. So we integrate students in high school who have never been camping before and who have never spent a week away from home before. So we're pretty good at sort of seeing exactly what the needs are and how we can best support them. In middle school, for students who maybe haven't done a ton of sleepovers or haven't spent multiple nights away from home, we're quite sensitive to that. And we have good ratios in the field and are in constant contact with a coordinator at home so we can communicate all those ideas back to campus and they can communicate them to you. And we're always open-minded when it comes to scaffolding those multi-night adventures for kids who are not used to them.
My son's going to kill me for even adding anything, but he's not here, so it doesn't matter. We actually spend quite a bit of time in Truckee as is, and he has all the outside freaking gear that he could need. My thing that's really, I feel unique about your school, and that I think is going to be a transition for him, is sitting in a classroom where there's fewer kids, there's much more interaction, it's much more three-dimensional. That's the part that I'm curious about, because you have so much support and so much that goes along with that he's never experienced that before. And it would be unique, I think, for him to feel so centered, or so like the center of attention in a way.
Yeah, there's no hiding it, T. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and there's an adjustment period for some kids for sure, but I would say most kids adjust pretty quickly because they see that they see it amongst the crew that that's how it is, and it becomes sort of second nature pretty quickly. But for other kids, it takes time, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I think being seen and being noticed, not, being held accountable, the opportunities to perform, just to like name it, they're much more frequent. And that can, an incoming sixth grader might take a little while to feel the benefit of that. But when they experience the pride of those experiences, when they feel mentorship from a caring adult who knows them well, it's just the value far outweighs the risk for 99% of the students who roll through our doors, for sure.
Yeah, I'm only positive like expectations. I don't misinterpret that. I know what I've asked enough. I really appreciate your answers.
It's all good.
Well, on that note, this is not the end of the conversation. As we've mentioned, we are maybe too available, and we're okay with that. So if you find yourself after this conversation, I'll answer this way. What's the sixth grade total number of students in 2026? I'll let Allie talk about that a little.
So right now we do have a pretty big fifth grade class. We always have turnover, sometimes with that transition. So right now we're looking at about 18 students rolling into that class. I've got 7 students in our pipeline that are going through the process right now. So the max is 20 in sixth grade. What's Andy?
Yeah.
18?
The stated max is 18, but we're always happy to, as long as we're under 20, we're really stoked about the size of the class.
I'm going to leave like 30 more seconds for any more questions, maybe less than that.
And I'll just add, if you have any further questions, if you are a incoming parent applicant, I'm happy to guide you through the process and continue the conversation as well. Just reach out to me in admissions, but I will also follow up with this recording and any other questions, or kind of talk about what your next steps will be as well.
And if you're a current parent, you know where to find us. Always. Yep. We are here to help transition you and your family to this next wonderful stage of your child's development. All right. With that, I think we can say good night. Have a wonderful evening, and please don't hesitate to reach out.